As we start this general overview, I'd like you to get an appreciation for how this software has developed and give you a quick look into the background of the software so that you can see how it functions. We're in this section of leads. The first thing we see in the area of leads is this big blue box, and this is an explanation that a coach could actually read to a client as they're doing an assessment. And the idea is that we want the client to think how important this area of leads is, and perhaps maybe that they're doing some things wrong and there is opportunity for breakthrough. Now, if the coach isn't quite sure what to say, they can also have some notes here that will pop up that will help them explain the script or the explanation in the beginning. And then we go down, we start into some questions, and we have I put blue boxes for open-ended questions and yellow boxes for yes/no questions. So we might start with the question, tell me about your lead generation process. And I thought, well, we need a place to put notes. So I have these note boxes. And then I'm going to ask a question, do you now or have you in the past used any of the following for generating leads? And we give some examples like print advertising or radio or TV, email, SEO, etc. Now, if a client says no, I'm going to go in this direction. If they say yes, I'm going to go in this direction. There's different questions. So remember, the first question there is, do you now or have you in the past used any of the following for generating leads? And let's say no, it's like, well, why not? Natural next question, right? So you can take some notes on that. And if it's appropriate, you'd ask, what would be the impact on your marketing if you could successfully employ 2 to 3 of these simultaneously? And they'll say, man, if I did that, I'd grow 10 or 20%. So at this point we say, let's stay really conservative. They will conservatively, easily 5%. And I'd put that 5% in that box there. Now, if they'd said yes to that original question, then I'll say, well, which ones have you used? And which ones were successful? See, I'm just getting some open-ended questions to explore the situation. And then, are you still using them? Well, if they say no, we're going to go down and say, well, why not? What would be the impact if you did? But if they say, yeah, I'm still using them, well, does your marketing target the hot button issues of your prospects? And there will be another note that explains what hot buttons are and why they're important and some examples. Well, again, if they say no, we go one direction, and if they say yes, we go another. What we're trying to do is everything comes down to a point of financial impact. And you can see that this spreadsheet goes on, is quite vast, and has so many areas of impact that we might find opportunity to find a breakthrough in the area of leads. So let's take this into the software itself. One of the first things I'll need to do is ask some foundational questions. So I'm going to click on that foundations, and I'll need to ask financial before anything else. I'm only looking for 3 answers here. What is the company's current annual revenue? I'll add $1 million. And there's always a little note box that helps with explanation if there's any question whatsoever. So then I click next. What's the company's current gross profit margin as a percent? We might say it's 80%. And what's the company's current net profit margin? Again, there's note boxes to explain. And we'll say it's 30%. We click next. It says return to the overview section, which is this top button there. Now we see this tab has been 100% updated. And if we scroll down, we'll see that the current revenue there is $1 million with a net profit margin of 30%. So net profits are $300,000. But the gross profit margin is 80%. Now, if I can make an impact or find an impact in profits, let's say we add an extra $100,000 to a business, we can measure the impact by gross profit margin, because they probably don't have to add more staff or pay more insurance or more rent or utilities, but they do have to fulfill on the product. So the impact is always measured by a gross profit margin. So We finished that. We might want to do a brief valuation of the company, and we'll need these for the charts. So we'll go back to Foundations. I'm going to click Valuation. There's just 10 questions. And as I say in this note to a coach, these 10 questions is a sales tool. It's not meant to provide a formal valuation of a business. It's important you tell the client that. So this is something that's indicative of the possibilities of their growth. So thank you very much. We've read that to the client. Over the past 3 years, has your revenue been steady or growing or declining? Well, if I think it's steady, I'll just put in 100, which means 100%. I don't need to add the percent sign, but I just put in 100. You know, if it's growing at 10% a year, I might say it's 110%. Obviously, if it's growing, it's worth more. Next question. Is your industry in a steady state, or is it in a general growth or general decline? Now, I might say it's a steady state, so it's 100. If you were to sell all your inventory and assets, what do you think you'd get for them? Well, let me just put 250,000. Do you have financials prepared by an accountant with historical, current, and predicted revenue and expenses? Now, a good business will have that. If they don't have it, we'll say no. Then the value of their business is actually lower. Do you have one customer that accounts for at least 15% of the overall revenue? Well, maybe I do, yes. So that's kind of a danger, actually, if we were to lose that client. So the value is a little bit lower than they might expect. Are a large extent of all your systems, processes, policies, and procedures in place? Well, actually, no, I'm not very good at that. Are your marketing and sales processes documented so that sales are predictable? Generally, they'll say no. Is your business model scalable? A little note to explain it. Say yes. Is a large percentage of your business recurring revenue? Yes. What's your business been valued at? And I'll just throw a number in there. For example, $1 million. We say next. So now we have to return to the overview section. And we see that valuation has been completed. Now what I'd like to do is to show you the leads section in the software, because you've seen it initially in the spreadsheet. So we go to leads. There's that initial script that you can use. Tell me about your lead generation process. And this is where you can enter some notes. Also, you can make a comment in the comment box. And after you've made a comment in that box, it'll turn green so you can find those very easily, later on. So we click next. Do you now or have you in the past used any of the following? And we said we could go no, and it's, the next question would be why not? And we enter some answers there. I'll just put some text in. And what would be the impact on your marketing if you could successfully employ 2 to 3 of these simultaneously? And we agreed that a 10% might be a conservative amount. So we put the number 10 in there. Now you come to some other scripts that you'll have to use, or you set up the next section of leads. So you can read that and push skip. Does your marketing currently include all 3 of these components that you've just read about? Well, maybe not. What would be the additional impact if you successfully included those 3 components? Well, maybe that's another 5%. Well, now that we've reviewed the foundation for getting leads, it's necessary to capture your prospects' information. Okay. Now, if you don't want to answer a question, you can just push skip if you want to go faster. And you see, you keep going through this, and you come to the end. Maybe we'll add another 5% there. What's been your best lead generation success to date? And I'll just click through a few of these to show you what happens at the end. And maybe we get 3 more %. And there's always an extra area of impact. And maybe you've got a question that hasn't been asked in the software. You could make a comment in the comment box and add another percentage there. And I'll just put 2% more. So now we return to the overview section. We see that leads, we have a cumulative 27.41%. Now, you'll see that the total profit impact is $216,000. Well, if you go down the page, this is the impact summary. We had a current revenue of $1 million, a net profit margin of 30%, so the net profit was $300,000. We had a 27.41% impact. So expected increase in revenue was about $270,000. A gross profit margin of 80%, so the increase in profits was actually $216,000. And that's a 72% increase over the original $300,000. We also want to show the 5-year profit impact, because I can tell a client, look, if we can cement these great changes in with policies and procedures, you should see that impact last over 5 years. So that $216,000 actually becomes $1.080 million. And of course, you could go and hunt for impact in all the other areas. We have cut costs, there's 12 areas there. We have more profits, there's 3. More transactions, there's 5 more. Salesforce, there's 12 different ways to grow a business. More conversions, there's 4 more. And leads, we have 7 areas there. So you can see there's a lot of area for you to find impact and do a full assessment on a company. But we'll just stick for one right now. We've found a very significant impact of 27%. So we go to charts. The first thing I do is I want to put in my consulting fee. This is on an annual basis. So I might charge $2,000 a month or $24,000 a year, and I can update my charts. Now, the first chart you come to, this is your original business value in red, and this is your revenue. And you can see that the business value has gone from $823,000 to $1.47 million. The revenue has gone from 1 to 1.27 million. Again, I'll tell the client that the impact on business value is just indicative of the impact that's possible for your business. This is not something you take to the bank, but it's just a good indication of if we're on the right track to work together. This is a nice one. We have your profit, your valuation, and your revenue. This is your profit plus business value, 1.1 million, total to 1.987, almost $2 million. That's a huge impact on their business. Here's your ROI comparison. Current profit plus business value, this is your potential, and this little blue line here is your $24,000 annual coaching fee. When clients see that, it's almost a no-brainer for them to say, this is so insignificant, let's just get started, because they really want the impact. Here's another one. Profit, valuation, revenue, and again, that little blue line is your coaching cost. This is if you just compare current profits alone, without the business valuation added, to the 1-year potential, and here's your coaching cost. Now what you can do here, if you think this is really too small, maybe you want to increase your fee. So all you have to do is go back up, and maybe you're going to raise it to $3,000 a month. Then you update the chart, come back down, and you can see it's still so small that it should be an easy decision for that business owner to hire you. Now you can also give a guarantee, and it's set at a default of 200% ROI, but maybe you want to start at 100% ROI guarantee if you feel confident, and you say, look, Mr. Business Owner, in the next year, my coaching fees will be $36,000. But as long as you implement the level that we mutually agree upon, I'm only too happy to guarantee that you'll make at least that $36,000 back in additional profit. That's a great way to help close the sale. So you might raise that to 200 or 300% if you're feeling confident, and these charts just update automatically there. So once you're finished charts, you can always click back out of charts, and you can also view a report. So whatever area that you found impact in will come straight into the report, and you have perhaps the business owner's name and their company is updated automatically. We just found one area of leads. So now in the report, we have the general concept. In your current actions, you have to update this yourself from whatever the conversation you had with the client. And then the implementation keys, these are boilerplate, and so you might want to update these with what suits your client. But in the report then, it also shows a little graph under each section and what the impact is for that one section. Now this report, we only did one area, so after that, we find there's a conclusion with some numbers updated automatically. If you like, you can download this as a doc file and then make changes in the doc file. And that's the software in a nutshell.